Okay. Okay. Good evening, one and all. I welcome you all to another session of our global conclave. It's a pleasure to have with us Mr. Snehanshu Mitra, the CEO of Center of Excellence Data Science and AI at NASSCOM. He will be delivering a session with us today. He leads the AI initiative at NASSCOM. He also heads the COE for Data Science and AI in partnership with the Government of Karnataka and the Telangana AI Mission in partnership with GOTS. In his decade long career, Snehanshu has advised enterprises on driving business transformation and delivering impact through data science and AI. His core experience lies in developing strategy, creating and nurturing world class capabilities, driving innovation, delivering value proposition to global clients, research, and managing P&L. So it's a pleasure to have you on board with us today. Over to you.
Thank you, Niharika, for such a generous introduction. Before I go any further, just want to make sure that I'm audible, I'm visible. There is no technological interference. Give me a thumbs up, and I know it's good.
Yes,
Wonderful, lovely. So, it's just great to see that IIIT Lucknow has set up this platform to bring in credible voices from across the globe to lend their views on contemporary business topics. And for today's session, everybody, I'll try and take about 25 to 30 minutes to do a small presentation and leave enough time for some interaction to happen towards the end. And everything going well, will still be in time to catch up on the RCB versus Mumbai Indians match. Right? That's important too. So talking about topics, I've been asked to lend my views on the subject of rebuilding the global enterprise and what a difficult period the world is recovering from. Even if you're not sick from the virus, you're probably feeling the impact of it in some way or the other, right? Let me try and bring up my slides and let me know once you guys are able to view this, right? Here we go.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
It's visible. And let me just put this up on full screen. Okay, lovely. So the world obviously has been dealing, sorry, there's a little bit of an echo. Because these are very difficult times that the world has seen. And, we've seen that the global economy has shrunk by a certain percentage. There has been impact on the per capita incomes. Sorry, yeah. Sorry. The presentation is not visible. Okay. Let me know if this is visible.
Yeah, sir, it's now visible.
And let me try and blow this up. Is this visible still? Last time, I guess. Yeah, is this visible?
Yes. Perfect.
Okay. So I was saying that, we've seen the adverse impact happen in terms of the shrinkage in the global economy, the per capita incomes have gone down. We've seen impact to global incomes, employment rates, global trade has taken a hit. Several short-term, long-term factors have been at play. We've also seen that economists talking about the global recovery being weak until Q2 of 2021. Industries have been impacted, customers have been impacted, workforce, operations, finance, supply chains and technology, everything has taken a hit, right? So this is kind of common knowledge. I don't want to come here on a Friday evening to tell you about the impact that the world has seen as a result of COVID. But what is probably a slightly lesser known story is this whole aspect around the resilience and then the bounce back of enterprises. And I'm here to talk through a little bit of it over the next 20 odd minutes, right? So what has happened? We've seen now that there are a bunch of change drivers that have really emerged as far as enterprises are concerned. There has been a change as far as customer behavior is concerned. The customer has become very, very value conscious. He or she always has been, but even more so now. We've seen a lot of requirement for enterprises to provide that kind of information transparency, and that is no longer something that is aspirational. Customers today are demanding that. The customers have also moved their businesses away to enterprises that have allowed them the low human touch solutions, right? So there's a key change emerging on the customer behavior side. On competition, we have seen that we have always said that customer centricity is a real differentiator, but it has now become an indispensable aspect of doing business in today's world. Uh, as far as digital is concerned, it is no longer restricted to front end. We are talking about end-to-end digital solutions. Workforce has seen a transformation. I remember the peak of COVID-19. Uh, there was an interesting statistics that I came across that globally about 90% of the workforce was working remotely, right? And you're not now talking about employee well-being, digital well-being and stuff like that. So it is safe to say that the acceptance of remote working has definitely increased, and that is being encouraged going forward also. And there is also a huge social transformation at play. What we are seeing here is that although the cross-border travel is a lot more restricted, but collaboration in general across nations has seen a new kind of a turn for the better. So net, we are seeing lesser physical movement of people, but more collaborations happening, and that is creating a new imperative as far as social transformation is concerned, right? So now what is also happening is that given the kind of scale that COVID-19 uh, has assumed, and given the length of time that it has been around us, and we are now witnessing a second wave, it has given rise to a lot of very industry-focused challenges. And here are some that I've listed down. But from a BFSI perspective, the whole need to address the liquidity crunch, the whole need to really deal with the increased demands for loan disbursement, setting up remote infrastructure, enabling contactless services, etc. All of these are so very important. Healthcare also is seeing a similar need to service patients remotely. You suddenly have so many more people coming into your to avail your services, and you're not nearly equipped with having to meet that kind of a demand. So there's a huge supply demand gap that they are grappling with. They are seeing increased number of claims happening, which they now need to manage and deal with. From a manufacturing perspective, one of the biggest disruptions that have happened, in my opinion, is this disruption of global supply chains. You do not have workers coming into office. They are very distributed. How do you set up the remote working operations? How do you anticipate what kind of demand will you see in the next quarter or so? So your existing forecasting demand planning exercises have literally gone for a toss, and then such are the state of affairs. Retail, a big problem was how do you literally overnight shift your operations online? How do you ensure touchless services? What do you do, because now your stores are just remaining closed, right? That's becoming a fixed cost. How do you manage that part of it? From a transportation perspective, a big problem again was enabling contactless operations. How do you optimize your fleet? How do you handle customer queries, etc., etc.? And these are very, very industry specific challenges that enterprises saw. And so what do you do when you come up with a challenge? You respond, right? You respond. And very recently, NASSCOM did a survey with about 280 CXOs worldwide, and these were globally distributed. So this perspective is global, not just localized to India. And some very interesting insights came out of this report. And over the next one or two slides, I'll try and talk through some of those pointers. One is we are seeing newer delivery models that have come to the fore. So stores are now being converted into fulfillment centers. You're seeing off premises delivery happening. All of this in a bid to maximize whatever you have at your disposal and try and monetize those aspects. We've also seen 60% of businesses, global businesses, change their business models to ensure business continuity. How big a statement is that, right? When was the last last time 60% of global businesses would say that we would want to effect changes into a business model because this is a very, very special situation. They've brought about product diversification. They have brought about usage-based commercial models, and then these are working very well in certain cases, right? 56% of customers have created newer segments to try and create newer opportunities or avenues to make money, earn money, and whether it is to foray into different customer segments, diversification from B2B to B2C, and all of that. They have been fairly open in identifying these opportunities and making the most out of. And lastly, the other part that came out was about 40% of your of the respondents also use this opportunity in a way that they've diversified into different regions, and these regions is where they have started receiving a lot of witnessing a lot of growth in, and this has happened both in form of organic and inorganic expansions. So it was a question of survival. We believe that enterprises, to a large extent, have rediscovered their businesses. They are looking at newer ways of, earning revenue. They are identifying newer markets where they can, generate additional sales from, and they are being very flexible with the delivery models. Now, the other thing that we have seen is the whole race towards going digital, right? And digital has just become such a huge imperative, and this reflected in the survey that we did, and we found that as many as 92% of respondents are saying that we'd want to continue to invest in our digital transformation activities. 62% said that we'll continue to maintain the same rate of investment. However, 29% of them said that we would want to increase our investments in accelerating our efforts towards becoming truly digital enterprises. And only 9% said that we are facing certain challenges, we'll probably ramp down. But overall, the big message is that as much as 92% of respondents would want to continue on their path to becoming truly digital organizations. Now, this is an important one, right? So there was this huge financial stress that industries across saw they were up against, and despite all the challenges, despite all the pressures, they are increasing their digital investments up to 30%, right? And if you were to see on the dark blue, bars, more or less, we are saying that 62% of the enterprises that we had surveyed would say that they would want to increase the digital investments by up to 30%. And that's telling a lot. So clearly, the focus is to use digital acceleration as a means to try and come out of the whole gloom and doom that is being perpetuated by the pandemic. Okay. So where I probably lost all of you was the fact that I was talking about 92% of respondents are continuing their efforts to become a truly digital enterprise, and what I was trying to suggest is that there are primarily three areas that we're seeing where the investments are being made. One is to try and get to a world of offering touchless automated operations. The second is the whole world of AI, ML, and decision sciences, where you're talking about prediction, recommendations, you're talking about real-time insights, and these are investments to be made. And the third is I spoke about digital not only being restricted to front end. So, how to bring about front end, back end integration. I think that is another area where we are seeing the investments happen. That leaves us with, having to summarize what I've said so far. And here are a bunch of things that I would like to probably talk in summary. One is that industries that are digitally matured, right? They are witnessing demand for COVID-19 related products, such as banking or insurance or manufacturing. They have performed better than peers. That is one. The second thing that we are looking at is enterprises have shifted to digital and contactless delivery models, something that I spoke of, right? They have also shifted to personalization. They're talking about B2C sales channels. They're talking about digital marketing and expanded footprint in high growth regions for business continuity and seamless customer engagement. The third one is around, talking about industry specific challenges. We have spoken about it, such as how do you, ensure personalization? How do you ensure seamless checkout processes? As far as healthcare is concerned, we spoke about the demand supply gap. How can that be addressed, right? How do you perform those virtual clinical trials? They are very, very important. From a manufacturing perspective, the prerogative is how do you predict customer demand, how to create greater visibility to supply chain, etc., etc. And when it comes to their investment decisions, what we are also seeing is that over the next 18 odd months, our general feeling is that digital investments will increase. They will increase up to about 30%. And the industries at the forefront of these investments would be manufacturing, healthcare and life sciences. We'll see BFSI, retail and CPG, right? And they will be targeting their investments to move their applications to cloud, right? Generating data-driven insight. They will be using it to enable accurate prediction and recommendations for their specific business functions. Right now, though, what we also feel is that enterprises lack a little bit of a clarity when it comes to managing the digital workers, right? And just hear me out a little on this. Let us not, jump into conclusions. What I'm trying to suggest is that the lack in clarity as far as managing digital workers and redesigning jobs, right? Bringing about effective change management to negotiate the ambiguous situation that we are seeing. All of this would require further discussion, further deliberation, and organizations would need to operate with a greater sense of purpose in this area, right? But what we are reasonably sure, everybody, is that over the next 2 to 3 years, we will have more and more organizations that will be ready to operate in an environment where humans and bots and AI will work with each other, right? So the whole co-working model will emerge over the next 2 to 3 years. And that will be signaling a major shift in the way things have traditionally happened. And the final one from my perspective is we are seeing a little bit of impatience in terms of shorter implementation cycles of digital projects that is triggered by pandemic, right? So if you're a business, you're no longer, you can no longer afford to not get onto this bandwagon. And certain industry types, industry verticals are taking a lead, but nobody will be left untouched. That is our belief. So media, entertainment, BFSI, you're talking about healthcare, retail, CPG, etc. they're all fast tracking their project implementations to manage the unexpected demand surges, the disruptions, that to their operating models, etc., that are caused during the pandemic. Digital is being looked upon as in a big manner to answer a lot of solutions. So I promised you that I'll take about 25 minutes to wrap up my discussion. I'm sorry about the little network disruption that we had, but this was what I wanted to basically talk to all of you guys today. And let me know if there is any comment, any feedback, any questions for me. I'd be very happy to receive them.
Yeah, sir.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, for the first question from Sarthak is that which sectors of economy do you think will likely recover the fastest after this COVID pandemic era, and which the slowest?
which sectors will recover the fastest? I think that would be sort of considering a lot of variables, but we are seeing recovery happen a little faster. Look, depends upon Niharika, what do you call as recovery? You are already seeing a lot of action in a space like healthcare today, isn't
Yeah,
it?
that's true.
People want more of that service. If by recovery you want more engagement, more business, more people to avail of the services, we are already seeing a certain amount of shift. But if you're talking about recovery also in terms of the revenues, their footprint, their operations becoming more streamlined, then we feel that retail and CPG could be one industry that will see a definite bounce back in times to come. I think manufacturing will take a little bit of a time to bounce back, given it's a very, very physical kind of a setup that they operate in. We are also seeing a good kind of recovery, and telecommunications generally has done well in this period, if you were to ask me. So certain industries have done well, and they will continue to grow, but a few others will probably perform a little more sluggish in times to come. The other one that I'm seeing, Niharika, come back to post a certain amount of growth is technology. IT spends are going up, right? Last year, I think it was flat to negative, but this year we have started to see some green shoots. So I think information technology is another vertical where we are seeing a recovery, definite recovery.
Okay. Another question from Ayushi is what investments are the most necessary to create the technology environment that would allow the company to thrive in the next normal?
What investments are necessary? I think the investments that I probably mentioned a little while back, but top of the mind to try and invest in ensuring the right kind of customer experience. That is no longer something that is aspirational, that has become an absolute necessity. And then that will be fueled by your investments in digital transformation. That would be very, very important. I think workforce training and remote working infrastructure, these are one or two more areas I feel that necessary investments would need to be made. And then let me know if there is any component of the question that I forget to answer. Please remind me. I'll try and answer
Yeah,
that
sure.
also, right? So these are two or three things that I feel where investments would need to be made. And to the people who are asking the questions, if I have misread or misinterpreted your questions, please type it in the comments. I'll try and come back to you with a more specific answer.
Another question from Priyanshu is that, like after this COVID pandemic era, most companies have started the work from home model, right? And like the retail aspect of the corporate, especially the IT related firms, have gotten rid of their commercial offices. And so, what do you think is on? What do you think? Do you see recovery for the real estate market? Um,
Yeah, so talking about the earlier question, one of the sectors that has taken a lot of hit and the bounce back seems to be a little suspect. I think real estate
yeah.
could be slotted in that answer as well. How will real estate react? I think it is a little bit of a wait and watch that is going on. I would know of a lot of different corporations that are encouraging employees to take it slow. There is no hurry to log back, come into office, and they're also giving away the space that they're not utilizing in the process. To me, commercial space is something that will not see a bounce back, and it, going by all available indications, where we are saying that an increasingly bigger portion of population, of the working population, is feeling more and more comfortable working from home. It would be interesting, to say the least, to see what are the long-term prospects. Now, not everything will be driven by this sentiment. I think sooner than later, to the person who asked this question, there's another dynamic in my mind that will also become a very, very important consideration, which is, we are social people, right? And we are driven by a need to interact, have conversations, work together. And if we are, how long before we start realizing that there is a need for us to come back and then operate together? So in future, I believe, commercial spaces, as far as commercial real estate is concerned, will be driven by some of these questions as to, are we shifting onto a blended model where by rotation people will come into office, but as a rule, they will work from home. In this case, I feel the sentiments will be a little low on the commercial side.
And so, like this work from home model, do you think that the productivity levels have increased by this?
So the operative term there is productivity. Um, in many cases, I would say yes, it has gone up. People are spending a lot more time than they have been spending in the past when they would commute to office every day. And the commute time was probably taken away from the active amount of working time, which now they have at disposal. I can talk about my office, I can talk about people that I interact with. We all start our days at least an hour and a half, and we continue to work through the evening. And a lot of indications would suggest that days have become longer and more work is getting done in this mode.
And so, what about the cinema sector? Like after this COVID-19, Netflix and other OTT platforms have grown exponentially. So, do you think people will go back to the brick and mortar model of cinema?
Which is getting into theaters.
Yeah.
It is experience based, not anytime soon. uh, I think, not anytime soon, till such time that the vaccinations happen, till such time that vaccinations take effect, and we as common citizens and government feel that we have a sense of control over this pandemic. I think it will the physical experience will not be availed of. People will not log
Mhm.
on to cinema halls that soon. Even now, before the second phase of lockdowns began, we saw that cinema halls were open, but they were opened at 50% capacity or so. And that is not good business. That's not something that theaters will be able to sustain for a very long time. So I think at least in the near future, you will not see a lot of recovery there.
Another question from Harshita is that what fallbacks do you think that a company should keep ready in case another such pandemic occurs?
There's been a great learning in business continuity. There's a great question, by the way. One of the better ones that I've come across so far. Thank you for asking this question. I think there's been a tremendous lesson in business continuity. Uh, a global pandemic and this whole this whole pandemic has acted as a test case for sort of validating your existing business continuity models. Now, for bad or worse, good or bad, you have been able to test it out. You have been able to make refinements. My view is that you are a lot better prepared, to deal with a similar eventuality in near future. That would be my view.
And so, if you had one piece of advice for someone just starting out, what would it be?
Starting out where?
Starting off like a new business or just someone starting a company?
Oh, okay. So if somebody wants to become a startup founder, what would be my advice? Well, my advice is two or three things that I think I would like to suggest. One is these are very different times. So traditional wisdom in some ways has been challenged. Uh, the need to do something in a virtual environment is just so much important. uh, so whatever your business model is, try and examine the digital component very closely. That is one thing that seems to be a very important consideration these days. And a lot of startups are struggling, right? Because of the fact that they have not been able to make that switch fast enough. Two is funding is going to be a little suspect, at least in the short term. At least in the short term, investors are in a bit of a wait and watch mode once again, to just want to hold on to the money a little while longer. I think the situation has improved in the last 3-4 months, but be prepared to invest in it, invest or commit to that business idea for a lot longer. So those times of trying to raise money in a year and a half worth of time period, that is kind of gone. That is very difficult to find. So investment will be a little tight. Commit yourself for a slightly longer term. And third is it is even more important to try and find the right kind of people to start co-found the business with. It has just become, it was already important, I think it has become even more important as to what kind of people you're co-founding your business with. So these two or three things are quite important.
And so after the second wave of COVID-19, we have seen like there's not much reaction in the market. So do you think that it's because of the excess of optimism for the recovery of the economy?
Are you hinting at the recent stock market run? Is that the question?
Yes,
I
yes.
didn't.
Yeah, it's
Don't equate the two. Stock market is acting in funny ways, and then some would argue that it's not very logical for stock market to see a bull run at this stage where enterprises are struggling and economies are shrinking, etc. So honestly, I haven't been able to find a lot of logic. I don't know how much validation I'll be able to provide on the topic. Uh, there are a lot of factors at play. Some we can understand, others I think we are struggling to understand why it should behave the way it is. My view is that sooner than later, market will correct itself, and this whole bull run will is not sustainable.
okay, sir. That will be all for the questions. If you have any closing remarks for us.
I thank you so much for calling me over. I think I enjoyed my interaction. There was a little bit of a glitch in between, but thankfully that got sorted out in a couple of minutes' time. But wishing you guys all the best. Fantastic to be participating in this Equinox platform, and hoping to see you guys physically sometime over the next couple of years. And wishing the organizers all the best. You guys have a wonderful evening ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for coming and sharing your insights and experience with us. With us, it has really been very great to hear from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Niharika. Thank you so much. Bye bye.